My name is Dave Weller. I'm the moderator host tonight of the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. We've been doing these for nearly 28 years, and we do it as a voter service, a way to educate voters, help the candidates explain why they should be elected or reelected. And we think it helps create awareness and hopefully increases people's willingness to participate in the elective process. So tonight we're going to have the candidates for House District 57, which includes most of Franklin County. And we're thrilled to have both of our candidates with us. We've got Representative Derek Graham, and we have his challenger, Gary Stratton. So welcome to both of you tonight. Our chamber has this forum, but it's co-hosted by some other partners, the Frankfort State Journal, Frankfort Plant Board, Cap City Communications, Together Frankfort. Together, we help put this together, help formulate the questions, put together the structure, and create the opportunity, hopefully, that allows you all to participate and get in contact with voters. This will be one of the last opportunities you have to reach the entire community at one time. Cable 10 will edit these. They will show beginning next week through the election, along with the other processes out there, but we're thrilled that you're here. We have three excellent panelists who have worked hard to prepare for you this evening. We have Steve Stewart from Frankfort State Journal. We have Kathy Lindsay from Frankfort Plant Board, and we have Kristen Cantrell from Cap City Communications. All of these experienced press journalist type people who are involved in our process. So the way this will work, we'll have 1 minute opening statement. I'll do this in alphabetical order since Derek knows we've done this over the years. We usually would assign seats and create a way to do that. We can't do that, so we're going to use alphabetical order. So Derek, you will go first on the opening statement in just a second, and then Gary will go second. Then we'll have questions and answers. We'll start with Steve Stewart. In the question and answer session, we'll rotate through the panelists. And then when it gets time to close, we'll come back and we'll have closing statements, and they'll be in the opposite order of the opening statements, which means Gary will go first and then Derek second. On your question and answer, you'll have 45 seconds to answer. Susie will put a sign up at 20 seconds and want it to stop. And then you'll have 30 seconds for follow-up questions. Oftentimes, a panelist or even myself may ask a follow-up question to make sure we understand your response. So are we ready to begin? Okay, let's go ahead and start. Representative Derek Graham, you will begin with a 1 minute opening statement, and your time begins now, sir. You may have to unmute yourself, Derek. I think you're muted.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chamber. Thanks to all who are part of sponsoring this event. As I seek another term as state representative, I'm driven by the same three issues that led me to run in the first place. I want a stronger and strong public education system that is well funded. I want to improve this community that I call home. And I want to make sure our state government and all its public employees and retirees have the resources they need and have earned and be fairly compensated for the work they do and have done for our community and our Commonwealth. And that includes fighting for a strong defined benefit plan for our public employees. Public education systems that are funded properly and address the needs of students and educators. So tonight, this is the reason I'm here, to appeal to all of you, the voters, to grant me the opportunity to serve for another 2 years in the Kentucky House of Representatives, so I can continue to fight for those issues which are important to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Graham. Gary Stratton, you have a minute for an opening statement, sir. You may begin.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Again, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce here in Frankfort, also the other State Journal and Together Frankfort and other groups that has helped put this together. Thank Mr. Graham for joining me tonight in this. I look forward to talking about a lot of issues tonight. And again, I'm from Mercer County originally, but I live in Frankfort. I teach at Kentucky State University. I see so much opportunity in Frankfort, Franklin County, and of course the Commonwealth of Kentucky, that so much opportunities have been lost in Kentucky over the past decades or hundreds of years that we haven't seized on. Our biggest export has been people. And I'm all about innovation, entrepreneurship, and I want to see a mindset change in Kentucky that allows us to create things, not those things going somewhere else. I want to see a mindset of innovation. And again, I support education. Obviously, I'm in education myself. I work with teachers all the time on economic education, entrepreneurship education in the K through 12 system. So again, I want to support teaching, pensions, all the things that are important to Frankfort citizens. I'm in for.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, we're ready to start our question and answer. Steve Stewart, would you ask the first question and you choose the order in which it's presented?
Thank you, gentlemen, for spending some time with us late on this evening. Many believe that local governments like Frankfort and Franklin County are in for some very difficult fiscal times in the next few years. You all know well about rising pension costs. Now we have the added dynamic of pressure on occupational tax. As more commuters who used to pay their occupational tax here are now paying it in their home locality. Would you be supportive of more latitude for local governments to levy local option sales taxes, such as on restaurant bills, as a means of alleviating their fiscal pressures, perhaps as a means of funding special projects, just maybe like a new convention center in Frankfort, for example? Let's go first with you, Representative Graham.
Well, if you look at the history, I've always supported the local option. That was something that came up in 2010. Several organizations, particularly the League of Cities and the magistrates and county judges, have supported that. And coming from local government, I know how important being able to make decisions that impact your local government. So I would definitely be in support. I have been in support of it in the past, and I would be willing to sponsor or co-sponsor legislation that would allow more options for local government to decide their own fate, particularly when it comes to generating additional revenue for its local community. Now, Frankfort is a little bit different because it has a surplus of about $11 million, maybe 14, I cannot remember which, but it's unique in a sense by the size of the city and what the resources they have. But most local communities don't have that. Local governments don't have that. So yes,
Eric, we need to start tapering off.
I can ask a quick follow-up question of Representative Graham. In that legislation, would you require a voter referendum to approve?
Yes, and I have in the
sales
past.
tax? Okay.
Yes, and the legislation that has come up in the past, which would require that, I supported that option because I think the local people should have that option.
Thank you. Mr. Stratton, your opinion on local option sales taxes?
Yes, again, I'm for local control on a lot of things, not only this, but I would say, yes, I've been supportive of that in the past, and my ideals of local support for how they want to tax their citizens locally should be up to the local community, local cities, and the counties themselves. So again, if they want to see a project done, they can, again, there's already some taxes they can do locally, such as restaurant, I think, and some taxes for convention centers, I think, locally in some places. So I would be for that. And again, referendum, I would be agreeable to that as well. Make sure that, again, the local citizens have the right to, make their own way, I guess, on that decision. So I would say yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Kathy Lindsay, your turn.
Okay. Let's see. After the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, our country has seen a rising movement in the calls for social justice. Two terms are frequently hashtagged: Black Lives Matter and defund the police. These terms can be interpreted in different ways. How do you interpret them, and are they ideas that you support?
Who do you want to go first, Kathy?
I'll go with Mr. Stratton.
Well, first off, I am very supportive of Black Lives Matter, more so the individuals themselves, not so much the group, but I do support some of their ideals. Of course, I back the blue as well. So again, we have to have a fully funded police department. Maybe there needs to be some more training, of course. There needs to be some more also more justice reform, which is being planned, I think, in both the local House and Senate here at the state level, as well as at the federal level. So we are working toward that. So I would be supportive of the police and all that. And I do not agree with defunding the police. I think we need to make some changes with the police. And there's a few bad apples in the group. Let's get those out of there and do some more training and more issues with the schooling of the police officers, I think.
Thank you. Representative Graham?
Well, let me just say this. I do not support defunding of the police, but I do support the idea that, and I've said this before, police are part of the community, and the community is part of the police. And so what we need to do is have law, we have order, and we have justice. And based upon those three things, we have to work together between the police department and the community to solve those issues that we're talking about. But defunding the police, no. But putting money and investing money where police, so for example, when I was on the city commission, we were able to get a grant in the 1990s under President Clinton with community policing. And we found that when we instituted that, we got that grant and instituted it in areas like South Frankfort and other areas, police came into the community and they made friends, and people were glad they were in the community for protection, but also they connected with those kids who were in the community.
Thanks.
Those are
Thanks,
the kind of
Derek.
things that we need.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're ready to move on? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Kristen Cantrell.
Yes. All right. So
Hi.
I'll direct my first question to Representative Graham. The pandemic has revealed many problems that existed before the pandemic. And both of you obviously are great supporters of education. So you would be aware of the digital gap that existed before the pandemic hit and now has been brought into full view. So there are people who do not have internet access, they do not have technology, they do not have hardware, software to support a strong public education in the 21st century. How would you address this digital gap? Unmute.
Sorry, I think we need to work with our education communities to find out ways in which we, number one, can fund for those districts who are unable to fund. My daughter is a teacher in the Jefferson County Public Schools. They have gone out aggressively and put out fire sticks and those kind of technology things that can help students who don't have the internet to receive the internet so that they can teach virtual. But yes, what we really need to do is invest, and that's an investment in the 21st century. Invest in creating a technology system within every school system throughout Kentucky. But some areas of Kentucky still are having difficulties in getting the internet, particularly in Eastern Kentucky, for example. And so we've got to invest in those areas so that the internet system can work and be proficient enough for the students to be able to learn virtually. Because I believe we're going to be in this situation for quite some time.
Thank you, Representative Graham.
Well, yeah, I agree. There's definitely divides within Kentucky. because I've done a lot of work in Eastern Kentucky. I know there's a lot of relationships there, a lot of partnerships are working on that last mile for the internet and broadband. So that's working through. Kentucky Wired is moving forward, I think, but the last mile is the critical issue there. So that's where the counties, the cities need to work together with the school systems. Also, private industry can work together. There's money out there. We just got to pull all the pieces together. And that's where the partnerships come in. It's not just all government. It can be all these partnerships that can pull together to develop that middle mile to last mile that will bring the school systems, actually all the households together. And I think also new systems coming online with through the satellite. I know there's a lot of programs out that's going to be making internet available everywhere through satellites as well. Not like the old satellites, but the newer developed satellites. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, I think we're back to you, sir.
The executive branch during the Bevin administration a few years ago made a unilateral decision to demolish the Frankfort Convention Center and adjacent infrastructure. The question now is what to do with that land and how to get it on the tax rolls and supportive of the local economy. Community leadership seems to think that tax increment financing is the best strategy. That would require city, county governments, and the state to pledge future tax revenues from development of that property to help pay for some of the public infrastructure on the so-called parcels B and C. Do you see tax increment financing as a good strategy for development of that property? And are you okay with the state's participation in a so-called TIF? Let's start with Representative Graham.
Well, let me say this. We're going to have state participation. I was not for what happened to our convention center. I talked with the administration at the time and said that it was not a good thing for this community. But I think the state government is going to have to work with the city and the county. I think the leadership in the local government with our county judge and our mayor, they're going to have to lead the charge. And those of us who are serving in the General Assembly, such as myself and at this time, Representative Graves and Julian Carroll, we will have to work with the local government leaders as we approach the state in trying to figure out which direction and how we will proceed in this endeavor.
Quick follow-up, Representative Graham, do you have an opinion specifically on tax increment financing and whether that is an effective approach?
Well, I would have to look at that in detail to see what the advantages are and what the disadvantages are. But also, I would have to work with our local government officials to see the direction that they would like for us to go and whether or not they would support that option.
Mr. Stratton, the question is the future of what I still call the Capitol Plaza land. It's now commonly referred to as parcels B and C. What is the state's obligation to our community in seeing that property is used to maximum benefit?
Well, of course, we have to get more private property on the tax rolls. I see that as one thing, but the state has an obligation here to, again, that was, come from the state, the convention center and that really whole area there. So I see as a player with the local and state and local and city government as well to come together with, again, I know the private investor out of Hazard who's done some great jobs and built some really nice facilities in Eastern Kentucky. I think it'd build a quality, site there. So I think the state has, again, definitely with some of the public aspects is going to be built along with that. State has an obligation to, again, work with the partners. Again, I'm all about partnerships, public-private partnerships, and pull this together. So I see this as a very good project.
Quick follow-up, Representative Graham, with a new administration, executive branch, would you be willing to push for state funding for a new convention center specifically, not necessarily on parcels B and C, but is it only fair that what the state took away from us, the state could help us get back?
I do think that that is an option that we could pursue. However, in this particular time with the pandemic and the shortfalls that we're having with revenue, I think this would not be the time for us to do that. But I think this is the time for us to start planning and working with the administration to see what direction we can move towards making that happen later.
And Mr. Stratton, 30 seconds. Would you support state funding for a new convention center in Frankfort?
I sure would. And again, looking at who controls the House and the Senate, who can better bring that money back to Frankfort than somebody that's in the party that's in power. So I definitely would like to see that. Frankfort being the capital should be the showcase for the state. And convention center should, maybe not the largest, but a nice one, a place where folks can meet, the state workers or other individuals having concerts here. We all should have an innovation center, and a lot of things we should be the showcase for the state, not just the in between Lexington and Louisville.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Steve. Kathy Lindsay, you're up.
Great. Since coal has been an important part of Kentucky's economy, and data indicates that emissions from coal processing and generation facilities contribute to decreased air quality, what is your policy toward climate change? And if you think it should be addressed, how would you go about decreasing carbon emission? And I will start with Representative Graham.
Well, let me just say this. Yes, I do believe in climate change. You can see from the type of weather that we're having across the world. And so we've got to have clean energy. We've got to invest in new ways, new mechanisms by which we can generate energy. And there are methods by which we can proceed. I think it's unfair to the people of the eastern part of the state and in the western part of the state to continue to let them believe that coal is going to come back. It's not going to come back. But we need to invest in ways in which we can increase the economy and improve the economy and innovate, have innovation in terms of bringing new jobs to Eastern Kentucky. But it's not going to be the way it was. That day and era is over, and we need to be upfront and honest with the people in Eastern Kentucky.
Thank you, Representative Graham. Appreciate the answer.
Yes, coal is diminishing. I'm very familiar with Eastern Kentucky, worked in several projects there. And again, it's going to continue probably to decline. It's again, there's the new clean coal technology there that's helping make the utility plants cleaner than they were before. So it's not going to disappear just yet. There's still quite a bit of use that coal has in our economy, but natural gas is taking over, of course. It's a large player in Kentucky's energy as well. So I see that as important. At the state level, of course, we can make our buildings more fuel efficient, which we should. It saves money, it's saves with our vehicles. So there's a lot of things we can do as a state to do that as well. So again, there is climate change. I agree with that, but I believe we need to go at this or making changes at an incremental level.
Okay, Kathy, do you have any follow-up?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Kristen Cantrell, you have a question, please?
Yes, and I'll start with Mr. Stratton. What are your views on Kentucky's voter ID law?
Again, I am for some type of ID. Again, I want to make sure everybody has an ID with no charge. I mean, whatever it takes to make sure everybody has some type of ID. I think in all forms of life, you have to have some type of ID out there. If you're buying something, you're going on a trip, whatever you're doing, you have to have some type of photo ID to get on a plane, whatever it is. Everybody should have a photo ID. So I would like to see everybody have that, whatever it takes to make sure people have one. So I'd like to see if you have to have a picture ID to buy cigarettes or alcohol, why not have it just to vote or anything else really? So I'm okay with that.
Okay, Representative Graham.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
What are your views on Kentucky's voter ID law?
I voted against that law, primarily because voting is the most important right that we have as citizens. And we should never try to keep people from voting. And in the past, people could come with some form of ID, a bill from your electric company, some kind of work ID. And now it's that, it's a little bit more stringent in terms of getting to vote. We should not make it difficult for people to exercise their fundamental rights to vote.
Thank you.
Okay, we are running up near the end, but we got a little bit of a late start. So if it's okay with you, gentlemen, I'm going to hold you over for just one more question and then a closing statement. So my panelists, Steve, Kathy, Kristen, point to somebody you want to ask the question.
Steve.
Steve, you okay,
I'll
Steve?
Sure.
You got the last question.
Assess Governor Andy Beshear's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic in Kentucky. I'd be interested if you each could tell me one thing you think he got right in his management of this, and maybe one thing he got wrong in his management of this. But first, give your overall assessment of the governor's handling of the pandemic. Mr. Stratton, let's start with this one.
Okay.
Mr. Stratton first.
Gary?
Well, for the very beginning, I gave a very high marks. Did a great job of pulling us together and keep getting us on the right path, I believe. Again, and that's continued. I do have a problem with trying to pick winners and losers in business. And where you have Walmart and Kroger could have openings just fine. A lot of smaller stores and smaller establishments, which are the backbone of our economy. One of the backbones is, we're facing foreclosures or businesses going out of business. So again, I have a problem with that. Maybe have some guidelines the businesses could stay open, like the bigger stores could have. So I had a problem with that aspect, and I hope that doesn't happen again, because I want to see all of our businesses survive. Just as we can all be more careful. That's all we have to do. So that was my major issue with trying to shut the economy down, basically.
Okay, thank you. Representative Graham?
I applaud the governor. And if you look at what happened at the initial intake of this pandemic, the governor shut down everything, and he should have only those essential things. And then if you see what proceeded as he gradually began to allow the opening of other businesses and other organizations, then we begin to see the spike. And so the governor is the highest elected official in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He represents all of us, whereas in the House of Representatives, we represent our district, and in the Senate, we represent our district. But the people have put their trust in this governor and in every governor. And so I support what the governor is doing, because he's looking out for the health and welfare of all of our people, all 4 million people across the Commonwealth. And we should not tie his hands as he tries to put measures into place that protect all of our citizens of this great Commonwealth.
Quick follow-up, Representative Graham. Anything you wish he had done differently?
The possibility of holding back a little bit longer before he began to open up the communities across the Commonwealth. Maybe if he had waited just a little bit longer, it probably would have been better. But he did what he thought was in the best interest of the Commonwealth. And at that time, if you remember, Kentucky, his leadership was really considered one of the best in terms of how to address this issue of the pandemic. And he was well noted for how he handled the situation from the very beginning.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to move to our final part of the evening. Appreciate all of your answers. Appreciate you being with us. I know it's past all of our bedtimes, so I admire the fact that you've been able to stay lucid through this entire thing. Congratulations for that. We're going to start with our closing statements. Derek began the opening statement, so we're going to allow Gary to do the closing statement first. Gary, you have 1 minute to explain to the voters of Frankfort why they should elect you to be their representative to House District 57. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And again, it's not my past my bedtime. I got more work to do, so it's still early tonight. But again, thank you for having me tonight. I want to just run a positive campaign. I'm about opportunity, innovation. I want to see changes made. Kentucky has been held back for too long. We have, with various policies, we're holding ourselves back compared to surrounding states. And I want to see opportunity here again in business and in education. Let loose. Nashville, Tennessee has the same amount of students as Louisville, and they spend 5,000 less and have better scores than we do. Louisville spends 16,000 per student. Nashville sends 10,000 per student on their students. What's the difference? How are we spending our money here? Let's get more efficient. I want to see more things in Frankfort. Again, who can bring more back to Frankfort? Somebody that's in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. The Republican Party has a supermajority in the House of Representatives. I want people in Frankfort and Franklin County to think about that. I want to bring more things back to KSU and Frankfort. I want to see a veterinary school of medicine built here. I want to work on that. But there's a lot of things I want to do. I'd love to talk more. Thank you.
Mr. Stratton, thank you. Terry Graham, you have 1 minute, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Chamber and the other sponsors of this event. Having been born and educated and reared in Franklin County, I've been taught by my family to always give back. My family taught me at a very early age that it is better to give than to receive. And I've lived my life trying to emulate that advice. And I have instilled these same values into my daughters, Taylor and Blake. And I've been involved with this community all of my adult life, way before I ventured into politics. And so I say to the people of Frankfort, having been born, educated, and reared in this community, having been involved in the community with big brothers, big sisters, been a member of the Salvation Army Board of Directors, been on the commission or the committee of South Frankfort Community Center, I have given back to my community. And now I want to try to do what's good for this community by serving you again as your state representative of the 57th District. Thank you very much. And I ask for your vote.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to wish both of you good luck in the general election on November 3rd coming up and before, because there's opportunities to vote ahead of that time right now. As a result of the agreement between the Secretary of State and the Governor, I applaud their working together on that. Again, our two candidates, Representative Derry Graham, Gary R. Stratton for House District 57 for the State of Representatives, State of Kentucky. We're going to close now. I want to thank, this is Frankfort Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank our partners, Frankfort Plant Board, Frankfort State Journal, Cap City Communications, and Together Frankfort. I want to thank my panelists. What a wonderful job. They've been on these calls with me all night. We started at 4:30. We actually have communicated all day via email, so it's been a long day for all of us. So thank you to always Steve Stewart, Frankfort State Journal, Kristen Cantrell, Cap City Communications, and Kathy Lindsay with the Frankfort Plant Board. I want to thank Susie Hosley for being our timekeeper. She's the incoming interim president appointed, so we're excited for her. And David Columbia, Cable 10, and the other crew members that staff that with him that are helping make this possible. They're going to edit this. This will start airing next week, gentlemen. So you can tell your supporters. I think they're going to send you a notification when it is going to be on the air, and it should be on through the election. So again, want to wish both of you the best of luck in the election. Thank you so much for participating. Have a great evening. Good night.